Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Welcome to the Insurance Sucks podcast. Yeah, we know it sucks, but you have to buy it, and you probably don't have the smarts to figure out what you need or where to find it. That's why you should listen to Eric and Daryl, brought to you by QuoteSavage.com.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Insurance Sucks, brought to you by the folks at QuoteSavage.com. I'm your host, Eric Remmel.
I'm Daryl Stidham.
And we're here today to talk about insurance. Today's topic is fraud. Fraud. Yeah, we've talked a lot about auto insurance. Like our last episode was all about auto insurance rates and the most expensive and least expensive states to live in. And Florida came in, ironically, at number 3 as one of the top 3 most expensive states in the United States to have insurance in.
Right.
And if you guys missed our previous podcast, go check it out. It was really cool. We got to share some really interesting statistics that I think a lot of folks didn't even know were out there. You know, things that just...
And, you know, there were reasons why in each state the rates were either high or low.
Absolutely.
And they all made sense. And what it came down to for Florida was the amount of uninsured drivers. In reality, 26.7% of drivers in Florida don't carry insurance.
That's a staggering statistic. So when you look at that as a numerical standpoint, that means a quarter of the people on the road have no insurance.
Right.
Literally 1 out of 4 people have no insurance. And of the people that are insured, 21.3 people are underinsured. 21.3 million, drivers are underinsured. So when you think about that, when you start to look at that, we're 52% above average as far as the national average when it comes to premiums.
Right.
And a quarter of the people on the road have no insurance. They're uninsured.
Correct.
Roughly 26% of the insured drivers, of the 75% that's left, are underinsured.
Right.
So that means only half of the people, only 50% of the people roughly on the road, have the proper amount of insurance and are insured, paid for it, insured, current, active, ready to go.
They're good.
So that means 1 out of every 2 drivers is underinsured or uninsured.
Right.
That's scary.
That's terrifying.
That's terrifying. When you think about how many people are on the road out here. And one of the things that we talked about in our previous podcast, which was interesting because I think it plays on the dichotomy of the type of drivers that are in Florida, specifically in our county, in Pinellas County, we're in the Tampa Bay area. There's a lot of universities here. There's 4 in Pinellas County. There's multiple ones around the surrounding counties in Hillsborough and Manatee and Sarasota. But when you look at why the rates are so high in Florida, it's the number of students due to the many universities, older drivers due to the large number of retirement communities, and the unfamiliar drivers who are all here because of tourism. We have all the folks that come here.
Yeah, and Pinellas County, you have a mixture of
all of that.
All 3.
All of that.
You know.
Which is terrifying in itself, but the main reason for us talking today is to talk about what happens after that accident. You know, Daryl and I we've worked in opposing sides of this industry. So my background is healthcare and the treatment of the physical injury claims, of the personal injury claims. So I used to own a healthcare facility, worked in chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, medical weight loss, all that side of it. Daryl's the exact opposite, who works on the insurance side.
I work on the insurance side, so I see from the insurance industry side what's happening and why we see rates increase.
What the doctors are doing. You see the claims that are filed, you see the premiums, you see all the different things that are going on.
It's so many different things, and I can see, even on my own clients, when the difference between when an attorney gets involved versus when an attorney doesn't get involved, and what that looks like for us as a company.
I don't know what the statistic is, but I would imagine that out of all personal injury claims, a very, very, very high number, there's probably always an attorney involved.
Oh, it has to be. It has to be in the 60 to 80 range. It's got to be up there.
Well, it has to be because it's daunting in itself to be in an accident, but insurance carriers and repair facilities and tow truck companies, they make it so complicated that you have to have someone involved to filter all that stuff out because you don't know what you should say or not say. sign or not sign. There's so many caveats to it. So I understand the reasoning for an attorney.
Right, I do. And to be fair, when the company asks, the insurance carrier asks for your statement, be honest. And once you do that, the physical side of it, the car, the auto parts, the towing, that's pretty easy, pretty well solved. It's pretty cut and dry. You get a check within 24 hours, 20 hours, and you're done. You're out.
If you have a good insurance carrier.
Right. You don't have
Joe's Insurance.
Joe Insurance or something like that, yeah. Everything gets hung up on the injury side.
Yep.
And that's where I think I have my biggest gripe, especially when it comes to attorneys, because they hold things, they push things out, they overinflate costs, they do a lot of things that I don't agree with from my side of things that they believe is right, and that's fine. They're well within their right to, they're well within the law to, but what they end up doing, in my view, is hurting the consumer by overinflating costs, therefore passing the buck on to the consumer when it comes to auto insurance.
So I know this is off topic, but I'm going to use one of the best quotes I've ever heard in a movie to reference this. Did you ever see the movie Independence Day?
Yes.
Remember Jeff Goldblum's dad in the movie?
Yeah.
And the president goes, when they discover Area 51 and all the aliens, he goes, how did you pay for this? And he looks at him and goes, you don't think they really spent $200,000 on a hammer, do you? But same thing in the medical industry. And as you talked about, or we talked about in the intro, is fraud. Fraud is a big proponent of why those rates continue to increase and why there's so many rules and regulations and hoops to jump through when you do things like this. It's because every time someone does something shady, they have to make a rule to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Right.
So to share that thought today, we'll kind of give you guys an in-depth picture of what the treatment of an auto accident looks like, and when we refer to fraud, how that comes into play, what we're actually talking about. So to give you guys a picture of what it looks like to be a chiropractor or a personal injury physician who helps to treat people in an auto accident. Say, Daryl, you get into a car accident. Someone rear-ends you. Your neck hurts. What do? Well, you pick up the phone, you call a chiropractor or an attorney, whomever you call first. If you call an attorney, they're going to refer you to a chiropractor. If you call a chiropractor, they're probably going to refer you to an attorney.
Right.
There's no right or wrong. The things you have to be aware of is the 1-800 Tom, Dick, or Harry lines that you see advertised all over the buses and the bus stops and the TVs and the radio and the newspaper. Let me get you guys a little secret. Those actually aren't trusted, unique referral sources. They are owned by either attorneys or by chiropractors. And those folks send you to people they have relationships with that aren't always the most reputable individuals.
So you're saying that I should not trust advertising?
Ding!
Oh my God.
The guy who's now in advertising is telling you not to trust advertising. So advertising is conditioned to fill a need and is written and developed around that need. So if you're in an auto accident, the 1-800s and the 411s and the 199s, all those things come in really handy when you need to call someone. Well, all it's done is the folks who potentially would benefit from the revenue of that particular service are the ones who create them and monetize them and go from there. That's why at the end of all these commercials now you see it's a spokesperson, not an actual patient or not a lawyer. That's why they have to put that disclaimer at the end.
Got it.
Because they're run by chiropractors, doctors, lawyers, and so on.
Huh.
So the first thing I tell you is if you're looking to go to a reputable chiropractor or going to a reputable attorney, talk to your friends, your family, talk to people that have been in car accidents, talk to your insurance adjuster, your insurance agent, talk to if you've worked with an insurance adjuster before from a previous auto accident, talk to the insurance adjuster. They're going to tell you people that they work with that are reputable, that they know and trust. But the best kind of referral you can get is a personal referral. Don't call those hotlines. Don't get on the internet and Google search. Find somebody you know who's gone to it and has gone through that situation.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No like and trust, right?
Yep. So Daryl, let's continue in the essence of time to make sure we can squeeze this whole scenario in. You get into an accident, you're rear-ended, your neck hurts. You get on the phone, you find a chiropractor. You go to the chiropractor. What's going to happen? Well, they're going to give you a consultation. They're going to ask you what happened. They're going to ask you what were you doing? Were you in your seatbelt? Were you driving? Were you the passenger? Talk to me about your injuries. What hurts? What doesn't hurt? Did you damage anything else besides you? Did your car get totaled? Did the bumper fall off? They're going to ask you a bunch of questions about what happened to you. Chances are they're going to do some diagnostic testing. So x-rays at the very minimum or a physical exam. At the maximum, maybe you really hurt and you need an MRI, a CAT scan, any number of diagnostic tests, maybe even blood work. Who knows? It all depends on how injured you are. You may end up going to a hospital before you go to a chiropractor because you're too injured to leave the scene and they send you by ambulance to the hospital. Either way, you've reached your primary care physician. So that doctor assesses you and says, Daryl, you're injured, you're in pain. We recommend it's going to take 4 to 6 months to get you well. do you agree with this treatment protocol? And they lay out what they expect. And typically it revolves around something around X amount of visits per week for X amount of weeks till we do another reevaluation, assess how you're healing. Sound about right?
Yep.
So you go through that process. During this time, that doctor, that chiropractor, physician is communicating with your attorney, sending them copies of your invoices, letting them know what's going on. Hey, Daryl's coming in 3 times a week right now. We see that he's got A, B, and C injury. We expect him to be healed by this time. We'll keep you in the loop. And then about once a month, maybe twice a month, someone will call the office typically and talk to the doctor and say, hey, how's he doing? Everything okay? How's it progressing? Just to get an update on how you're doing. So it could be the attorney. It could be someone that works for the attorney. So let's just say you fast forward on a reputable doctor. He says 4 months. It's the 4-month mark. Hey, Daryl, you know what? You're the best that I can actually make you. You've gone through your whole treatment protocol. I can't do anything else to make you well. And here's how we know that. When you came in the office, we did an excisional exam, and we found as a human, you have a rating of how impaired you are. So I found that you can't do this exam. You can't bend over and touch your toes. You can't turn to the left because your neck hurts and your low back hurts. So we gave you a preliminary rating. It's now 4 months later. We're doing what we call a final evaluation to see how much you've improved because we've gotten all your symptoms and everything at bay, and you're not having any more flare-ups. You're as healed as you're going to get. Based on what we found from exam 1 and then diagnostic testing and final exam and this diagnostic testing, we impair you as a human being by 5%, which means you came in at 100%. You're now at 95% as your functionality as a human. We'll never be able to get that 5% back because that's the injury that you've incurred from this auto accident. So you've been impaired by 5% from this accident. That report goes out to the attorney. The attorney says, oh, okay, so he had soft tissue injuries. We did diagnostic testing. He saw a massage therapist. He saw you. He saw an acupuncturist. He's 100% well. Yes. Based on what all those physicians found in their final exams and their diagnostic reports, that attorney now has a numerical value assigned to you to go to the insurance company and negotiate a settlement. Daryl's impaired 5% as a human. He'll never get that 5% back. He's only 95% as he is as of today after everything's recited. So we assign a value to that. Could be $5,000, could be $10,000, could be $20,000. A lot of different factors involved with that. A lot of it depends on how severe is your damage, your injury, how long does it take you to heal, what's involved. Did you lose work? Is there other complications? Can you not perform in the bedroom with your wife because you're traumatized? A lot of different factors are involved with that. That settlement amount now gets offered to you, and it's your attorney's job to negotiate that settlement and get you the best rate. By default, in the state of Florida, the attorney keeps a third of that. The chiropractor gets his amount for whatever he's billed. Technically should already be paid for by the insurance carrier. Right. 80% if he's got PIP, 100% if you've got PIP and MedPay. If you don't have MedPay, that extra 20% gets paid for by your health insurance, depending on your coverage and what's involved. And then the patient, you get whatever's left. You get the settlement agreement after the attorney deducts his 33 1/3, which he's entitled to. Sound about right?
Sounds about right.
That's how the legal process, or at least a average auto insurance care of treatment from a personal injury should go. Now, today we're going to talk about fraud, and we're going to talk about how it shouldn't go. But to hear that, you're going to have to wait when we get back from our commercial break. Go talk to the folks at QuoteSavage.com. Let them know we sent you. If you need any insurance, they'd be happy to give you a free, no obligation consultation or quote. Check them out, QuoteSavage.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Insurance Sucks podcast. I'm your host, Eric Remmel, joined by
Daryl Stidham.
And today we're talking about fraud, specifically how it relates around auto insurance and auto insurance claims. So if you were listening in the first segment, we talked about what an average typical treatment should look like if you go to a chiropractor. Assuming that it's not a extreme accident, that you have an average injury, should take anywhere from 2 to 6 months on average. If you're really seriously injured, could take longer, could require surgery, it could require some other diagnostic outpatient surgeries or tests and things of that nature. But more importantly, what we want to share with you is fraud and what that looks like. So let's take that same scenario, Daryl.
Okay.
You were rear-ended, neck pain, not feeling so hot, go to the chiropractor.
Yep.
You go into the chiropractor says, oh, Daryl, this is bad.
What?
This is bad. Can you touch your toes, Daryl?
No.
Can you bend over and see your feet?
No.
Oh man, Daryl, I think we may have broken your neck.
What?
I think you may be impaired. I think we're going to have to treat you. And what this scenario looks like is the chiropractor, in most cases, not always, uses some over dramatization or some emotional distress to pull on your heartstrings to make you feel like you're worse than you really are, or you're going to need more coverage. Not always, but this is how it works. Daryl, I'm going to have to see you 3 to 4 times a week for the next 6 months until you get better. 6 months? Doc, really? 6 months? Yes, for 6 months. So what happens is this doctor has you coming in, and when you come in, you're going to get massage therapy, you're going to get rehab if he has a rehabilitation facility, you're going to get anything and everything under the sun in that roof. Hot packs, cold packs, vibratory therapy, infrared therapy, cold laser therapy.
Just everything.
EMS, electrical muscle stimulation. You're going to get some BioFreeze rubbed on your body. You're going to get some TheraBands to take home to stretch on your own. You're going to get a cervical pillow so you can sleep well at night. You're going to get a back brace so it doesn't hurt your back any further. You're going to get a neck brace. You're going to get a wrist brace. You're going to get everything you need. You may even get a consult from a mental health therapist to make sure that you don't have any PTSD from this accident.
Okay.
You're going to get more than anything you would ever need. And what's going to happen is that doctor is going to continue to treat you at that frequency or that average through the whole process of your treatment. Now, you may not get all that. You may not get all the warms and fuzzies. It could be another extreme where the doctor charges out the wazoo for each visit. They could be charging you $400 a visit. They could be charging you, twice what you need for your diagnostic test or your x-rays or all those different pieces. It all depends on the physician and how they do it, but there are a lot of physicians out there that will overutilize and take advantage and commit fraud. What does this mean for you, Daryl, as the end user? Is this good? Is it bad? Well, obviously it's bad.
Right.
I mean, what does it mean from you on the insurance side? It means that you've now potentially used all of my benefit in a very short period of time, so I have no coverage left for medical care.
Right.
Because in the state of Florida, the minimum you're allowed to have is $10,000. If you don't have MedPay, you have $8,000 worth of medical coverage. Well, back when I was in this industry 10 years ago, an average x-ray was $100 to $300. If you had to do, let's just say, a cervical 7 series where you take 7 x-rays of someone's cervical spine, that's about $300 and change. So I've just used $300 of your $8,000 in coverage on one test that hasn't even begun treatment. My initial exam of you is probably going to cost a couple $100. If I have to send you out for blood work or labs or anything else to see if there's any other stuff going on, that could be a couple $100. The time, and if I treat you on your first visit as well, in most cases, most chiropractors don't. They do all the diagnosing, and then they have you come back the following day to do the treatment. I've spent anywhere from $500 to $1,000 on your first visit.
Oh, so that's a good chunk of my money.
Right. That's an eighth of your money if you have minimum coverage.
Right.
If you have $10,000 and no med pay, you have $8,000. I've used on one visit, I've used an eighth of your coverage. So now when you come back the following day and you get your second treatment or your third treatment, whatever protocol I've set up for you, we're now looking at potentially $100 to $300 a visit between the chiropractic visit, between the massage therapist, between any other kind of therapies or modalities I do in the building. And I'm not saying that they aren't warranted, just giving you guys a real life picture of how this works. So now your follow-up visit is $100 to $300. So that means if I see you 3 times a week, let's just say for a month, that's 12 visits. 12 visits at $100 to $300 is anywhere from $1,200 to $3,600.
Well, there's half.
There's half of your coverage in 1 month gone. Assuming you have the minimum and assuming that's the rates that the doctors charge. Now, guys, these rates vary by state. You could be in a very rural state where there's not a lot of chiropractors. They could charge less. You could be in a state like Florida, like in Pinellas County. There's 4 chiropractic colleges in Pinellas County alone. So a lot of chiropractors.
Yeah.
And they could charge a lot of money depending on where they're at. So when you think about that, in 1 month, you've now used almost half of your coverage that you have allotted. At this point, the doctors typically don't slow down. They're going to continue. They're going to do another exam to see how you're doing. They might do more diagnostic tests, more x-rays to see how you're healing, which now you're back to another $500, $600, $700. Another month of treatment, and now your benefits are gone. So you've gotten 2 months of treatment. All of your benefits are exhausted. You may or may not be better, depending on the caliber of the quality of the service.
Right.
They may just be running up numbers to exhaust your benefits. And now here you are 2 months later, still in pain. Do you think that doctor continues to treat you when your benefits run out?
No.
Of course not. He's going to cut you to the curb.
I've been in that ride before.
So now you're 2 months into your treatment, have no coverage, still in pain. You're not any better because if you look at the statistics, it takes on average your body, depending on the severity of your damage, the injury to your body, 1 to 6 months to heal. The reason why those visits are spaced out over time and they go longer is because you have to give your body time to heal. You go to the massage therapist, they stretch your muscles, they relieve a lot of the tension, you get an adjustment, your body heals itself, goes back into alignment, and you're doing that over time to recondition the body and to recondition the muscles and injure the area. Heaven forbid if you need surgery or some major complication, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you need spinal disc decompression, or you need a fusion of your discs or a rod put in your back, depending on the severity of your injury, or say you break an arm or a leg, or any number of things that could happen.
Right.
That could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's very, very common in Florida for this scenario to happen because there's so many chiropractors and we have such a high amount of accidents that it's very common for the doctors to exhaust the insurance before the patient is healed.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad doctor. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have great insurance. It could just mean that this is a very, very, very common scenario where now there's a patient in pain who has no coverage. They're not any better, and they have to pay out of pocket. It's frustrating.
Yeah. It is.
So to avoid fraud, there's a couple different ways to look at that. On the insurance side, Daryl, I would imagine that obviously they want to deal with a reputable insurance carrier. So they want to talk to someone like yourself or the folks at Quote Savage.
Right.
They want to be able to get a good amount of policy coverage, meaning that they have things like more than the minimums.
You're uninsured motorist, you have the med pay. Those things are definitely high on the list.
Deductibles, keeping those low.
Keeping those low. Or actually, so in Florida on the PIP coverage, you can add a deductible to save money. Here's the kicker. You're going to take away an extra $1,000 or $2,000 of your $8,000 to save $10 every 6 months.
Which makes no sense to me.
0 cents.
Yeah. Because, let's face it, most people don't keep that much cash on hand. The average
Right.
person doesn't have $2,000 to $3,000 in their savings where they can just go, hey, I got my deductible. Here you go.
Yeah, no.
If you do, then put that in savings and don't touch it. And you know that in a rainy day, if you have an accident, that's your deductible money. You're good. But to me, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So reputable insurance, decent amount of coverage,
Good coverage.
active coverage. Make sure you're paying it and you keep it.
Yeah, please. And then from there, it's using referral sources that are trusted.
Yeah. Friends, family, colleagues.
Your agent.
I can guarantee you guys, most agents that have been in business, I would say a year or more, probably have seen or experienced quite a bit more than you would expect them to. And they probably have a long list of resources between attorneys and doctors and independent adjusters and home inspectors and all kinds of folks like that could help you.
We are there to make your life easier. And we take a great amount of pride when something happens and you're having a bad day to go say, we can be your resource to help fix it.
Absolutely. And we'll let you a little secret, guys. From someone who used to work in this industry, if you see someone, and this is not the situation, I'm going to put a little disclaimer here, this isn't the situation for everyone, but more than likely, if you see someone advertising on a billboard, if you see someone advertising on television, if you see someone advertising on a bus or a bus stop, or all the major areas where there's traffic, chances are they are affiliated with one of those referral sources. And in most cases, you're going to be treated as a number, not as an individual.
Right.
You're going to be fed through their funnel, if you would, so to speak, of doctors and lawyers, and you're going to be pushed through, and you're going to be another wheel in the cog. And if you're in an auto accident and you're in pain and you're hurting, the last thing you want to do is to not be treated properly or respectfully and have to deal with all that. Can you imagine if you injure yourself like our scenario, Daryl, and you go through and you're in pain and you can legit be in pretty serious injury or pretty serious pain after a car accident.
Right.
Having to deal with all this crap. You go to a doctor, you go to a lawyer, you jump through all the hoops because you think that's what you're supposed to do. You run out of coverage and you're still having the headaches or you're still having the back pain. Can you imagine what that's got to feel like?
I would be beyond help in my mind.
There's nothing worse in my mind than being in constant pain and having to still function and be an adult every day.
Yeah. I'm blessed I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even fathom.
Florida is one of the highest states when it comes to fraud, especially in the auto insurance arena.
Incredibly high.
Incredibly high. There's a reason why our rates are where they at, and that's just one part of the factor. But like Daryl said, use your insurance agent, use qualified referral sources. But also, more importantly, what I would recommend, and this is just my 2 cents from being in the industry, always double check your chiropractor. Always double check the places that you're going and the people you're referring to. ask your attorney, if you have a reputable attorney who's not in one of these mills, for question. They're there to answer your questions. So if you're uncomfortable or you feel like the doctor's treating you too much or they're spending too much of your money, ask the attorney. The attorney will give you an honest answer. And if they don't, get another attorney. There's no reason why you can't. I'll tell you this right now. There's no law that says you have to go to a certain attorney or a certain chiropractor when you're involved in an accident, unless it's workers' comp. That's a different subject, different story.
Yep.
But when you're on your own, the second piece of that is there's nothing that says you have to stay with them. If you go to a chiropractor and you don't like the chiropractor, if you go to an attorney and you don't like them, switch. There's nothing that says you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Florida is a right to choose state.
Yeah.
In almost every aspect of your life. So.
Absolutely. And the other thing, too, is when you ask your doctor for a ledger. What have you billed my insurance carrier? What have you done here? What have you done there? Now, I'm going to use this term sparingly, but the insurance adjuster is ultimately there to help you. They're your insurance carrier. They're there to help you, but keep in mind they're gonna level things with a grain of salt because they have to balance the liability for the insurance against the customer service for you. So if you have questions, I would say be very cautious when you ask those questions of your adjuster. Just you're better off, working with your attorney, working with your chiropractor, working with your insurance agent.
Yeah, the adjuster does work for the company. Your insurance agent works for both you and the company, so we have to toe that line. And do not forget that when you talk to an adjuster, while they are there to help you and get you what you need, the insurance company is still a for-profit corporation. They are trying to pay out as little as possible.
Yep.
That's their goal. But they have to work within a legal framework. So they're not going to shortchange you unnecessarily. They're not trying to screw you out of anything. They just want everything to be fair across the board.
Plus, they also keep in mind, in my opinion, it's just me talking, not giving you any kind of legal advice. If you don't have an attorney, get one. And if you do have an attorney, talk to the attorney before you talk to the adjuster, because there are certain ways you should talk to your adjuster. If give you a case in point, if the question is yes or no, give them a yes or no answer. Don't give them 5 sentences leading up to why you said yes or no. Too much information a lot of times can be hurtful, not helpful.
Yeah, and in fact, I would even argue that most attorneys, once you hire them, if you haven't already talked to the adjuster, will tell the adjuster to call me.
Yep, and then they become your point of communication.
Right, and then you no longer talk to the adjuster anymore.
Yep, and that to me is a much smarter solution because you don't want to say anything that could potentially hurt yourself.
Exactly, because people have diarrhea of the mouth, and they just keep talking.
Yep.
And everything you say is written down.
And recorded.
And used against you.
Absolutely. So guys, be cognizant when you're out there treating. Keep in mind, you can always ask to double check. And another thing too is you can also, one of the things I highly recommend is there's professional regulatory bodies that govern medical professionals as well as lawyers. So if you think that you could be dealing with a fraudulent attorney or doctor, or you just have a feeling that something's not right, get online, do a little bit of searching, call those. I mean, the Florida Bar Association, if you're in Florida, you can call and see how many complaints have been filed against an attorney. There's the Florida Chiropractic Association, the Pinellas County Chiropractic Association. There's the state of Florida who licenses chiropractors. You can go look and see if there's been complaints, if there's been malpractice lawsuits. You can look at all that information and do some research on your doctors, your lawyers before.
And for insurance agents and carriers, contact the Department of Financial Services. They have all those records as well.
That's going to wrap us up for today. Thanks again for tuning in. And as always, visit the folks at QuoteSavage.com for all your insurance rates. They will give you great quotes on insurance, auto, home, life, and coming soon.
Soon to be health.
Yeah, soon to be health. It's great. So I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm Daryl.
And we'll be back next week talking more about how insurance sucks. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.